Now I know what you're thinking. It's July. He's losing his gourd. Why is he starting Halloween projects? 2 reasons. I'll tell you why. 1, it's still warm out. 2, it gives me time to build up inventory so that I'm not behind during the fall season. It's very important that you do that if you're going to be going to craft shows so that you have enough time to adjust for your builds to build up overhead. Now, also it gives you time to test the market by putting things online. See what people might want to buy, see what people aren't buying. This way when you go to your shows, you'll have an idea of what they want to see. Today, we're going to be doing a project really simple, real easy, 1x8, couple 1x3s, simple Halloween spooky fence theme that could be placed outside or inside, depending on how you finish it. But it's really simple, involves a few pieces of wood, a few cans of spray paint, stain if you want to. You can finish it however you really want, I guess. It doesn't matter, the sky's the limit. But it takes less than a half an hour to build it. You're done. 1. You could probably knock out 10 in a day, if not more. And now you got 1 project you don't have to worry about. On to the next. So let's get started. And I'm going to show you how to turn this into a spooky treat.
Make it spooky and sell it sweet. So let's get ready for a easy build treat.
Okay, first we're going to start by cutting off our edge here to make sure that our end is flush. Make sure you got some type of a PPE on, mask, or any type of a breathing device would help, to be honest with you. Got my vacuum going. I got a nice flush end. We're going to measure from the end of the board 17 inches. 17 inches. Grab our speed square. Make straight line. Bring it on. Now, I'm outside, so I'm going to be using a K95 mask, but if you're doing it indoors, I recommend you use a full-on PPE with the filters to better help your lungs. They'll thank you later. So like I said, we got our board measured out to 17 inches. We're going to make sure that our saw is lined up. The blades are just touching that line. Make sure your vacuum is on or any type of dust collection. One. Now you're going to take your board, measure it, flush, just grab your line. When you're done, since it's the narrow side, turn it over so your hand's not too close to the blade. Make sure your teeth are just up to the line. I know a lot of people don't like to hold their scrap. This could be used for something else. 2, we're going to do this until we have exactly 4 pieces. Okay, you got your 4 boards. All at 17 inches from end to end. Didn't rip them. Leave the ends alone. You can sand this stuff later. So now what you could do is, you could do it by hand, where you're just going to make like a fence picket. You know, just a spike and come down, making sure that your ends are even where you're going to come down off of it. I have a template made because I make them before, so this is going to be the final product. So as you can tell, I just kind of did it by hand. Nothing special. Then I'll put this at the end of my board. And I'll just scribe my lines. So now I know where I'm going. Again, making sure that the point is almost flush to the top. And they don't have to be even. You could have one that's short. If you only got scrap wood laying around, remember, it's a Halloween build, so it doesn't have to be uniformed. I mean, one picket could be really short, the other one big. I mean, if you see a spooky Halloween fence, you know, I mean, they're not perfect. They're all broken up. You know, they have knots in them clearly. They have, you know, you don't want it to be a brand new fence. This particular project, I am, however, in fact, doing uniform cuts. Okay, so again, we got our lines drawn on each one. They don't have to be perfect. Now, you can cut this out however you want to. You can cut it out on a bandsaw. You can cut it out with a scroll saw. You can cut it out with a jigsaw. If you really want to do it on a miter saw, you can. I don't recommend it, but it's unnecessary. You can do it with a handsaw. So I'm going to use my scroll saw. I'm going to take that out, and we're going to go ahead and cut our pickets out, and then we'll start the next step. Okay, now we got our marks. I'm going to go ahead and cut all these to make this shape on my Ryobi 16-inch scroll saw using a fine-tooth blade. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't get upset if you're further on one than you are on the other. It's a spooky build, so they're not supposed to be perfect. So let's get started on the scroll saw. I'll be back when I'm done. Whoa! I keep forgetting, my scroll saw, I don't have tied down to anything. It's on a folding table. So these will just fly off. Don't forget your mask. Now remember, it's a Halloween project, so you don't have to go too crazy. 80 grit, 120 grit, and you're done. That's it. I mean, you could sand, if you want to keep going, have fun. I'm not. Make sure it's on there nice and good. Make sure your dust collection is clear. And you're going to want to round the edges like a fence picket, getting rid of any imperfections. I left a little space there to round it over. This way it gives me room for error. But again, it's a Halloween project. It's not going to house the troops. You know what I mean? So it can be flawed. Mask on. Coolness factor dialed up. One down. 3 to go. Now, you don't have to stick around. We're going to fast forward till these are already done. Also, remember that when you're hitting up the end, don't push too hard because you'll tear the center of your sandpaper, and you just had to put a brand new one on there or a used one, but it's going to just tear a hole right in the center there, and then that's not going to be good for anything. So when you're doing the end, use the outer part of the inner circle or the outer circle itself when you're folding over. And then you also want to kind of get rid of, knock off these rough edges. Just a quick over one, over one, over one, over one, hit it back, just to kind of smooth them out so that they're not super sharp and you don't have a super fine point on there. Again, remember, it's a fence, it's not a spear. All right, I'll be back when these are all sanded. Now, we're going to take our 1x8. We're going to measure out 18 inches from length to length. We're going to cut a little piece off the end here to flush out the end. like a glove. We're gonna measure out to 18 inches. Ooh, I got a knot right here, so that kind of works out. So I'm gonna measure out 18 inches, 18 inches, 18 inches. This is a piece of scraps that I have, right on our 18-inch mark. And we're going to make sure it's flush against our fence and flat. Turn on your dust collection. I don't have a switch, so I got to do it manually. We got our piece of wood. Again, we're going to hit it with 80, 120, just to clean it up. And then we're going to use a 1/4 inch round over to smooth out the edges, which you don't need to do. You could also just use the sander and just roll over the sander to make the edges smooth, just so it creates a nicer look. I have a round over, so we're going to use that. So I'm going to get this sanded, and we'll be back to show you how to use the routing for the edges. Okay, so we're going to take out my electric palm router. It already has my 1/4 inch round over in it. I'm going to take my freshly sanded piece of wood. As you can tell, it's nice and clean now. And when you're doing this, remember, on the outside, you always want to go counterclockwise on the outside to avoid it kicking out. Inside, clockwise. Outside, counterclockwise. When you're done, make sure it comes to a complete stop. Set it down, unplug it, so you don't accidentally turn it on and it flies at you. So now, makes it look a lot nicer, a lot cleaner. You want to leave the bottom flat because it's going to be sitting flat. If you want to do a round over on the bottom, you can, but it's going to, if you do that, if you see, it's going to teeter. So you want it to be nice and stern. So I leave the bottom flat, just the top part, a nice little round over on the top. 1/4 inch round over. You can go thicker if you want to. You can do whatever kind of end you want, but I think the round over works the best. So now what we got to do is we're going to paint it. Okay, now we have our round over done. We have our pickets carved, sanded, and ready to be painted. So for this process, what we're going to be doing for the pickets is the sky is the limit. You can paint them whatever color you want to, but I'm going to probably go with black and pumpkin orange Minwax wood finish semi-transparent color stain. That's going to be on my fence pickets though, not the base. So for the base, what I'm going to do is I have meadow green gloss Rust-Oleum, Home Depot, fluorescent bright neon green Rust-Oleum, Home Depot, and then your standard ultra cover paint primer gloss black from Home Depot. So what I do with the base is I'm going to spray paint this as my base. I'm going to let it dry for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to throw some accents of the neon in there. Let that dry for about another 10 minutes-ish, 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'm going to hit it with this afterwards to give it sort of a darkish vibe, grassy, dark, spooky night look. Okay, so now as you can see, I did my first coat. Just one good coat. It's a little tacky, so it's still not 100% dry, with my meadow green. And I'm going to show you the rest of the process because sometimes people want to understand what it's talking about when I say accented. So I got my paint board, even though the table's already fully painted. I'm going to grab my neon green color, give it a shake ski. Shake, senora, shake it all the time. And then I'm just going to hit it in certain spots. I don't want to spray paint the whole thing because then it's just going to color it the fluorescent color. I just want to hit it in some spots just to give it a couple of random spots of neon offset. There we go. That's what I wanted. See, now you can tell it dries dark, but you can tell there's already dark tones and the neon tones in with the paint. So you're gonna come in then with your glossy black. And then you're gonna, again, accent over these two colors just to give it a dirty, spooky, grassy knoll look. So that's what we want, just like that. So now it's got a little bit of dark tones to it. I'm going to hit this area really quick. And remember, you can always, you know, if you don't like it, you can always go over it with the metal green again, and it will lighten all that up once it dries. You could sand it all down once it dries if you don't like it. But as you can tell now, it's got kind of a like a grass feel to it. It's got 3 different colors. It's a little spooky, Halloweeny. So we're gonna put this aside, let it dry while we get to our fence pickets next. So upon thinking about it, when I'm gonna do my pumpkin orange, I figured we're going spooky, we're doing accent colors. Why not use my torch to kind of give it a burny look to it? I think that would make it look really cool. Kind of bring out the grain a little bit. And we're gonna do, I know some people don't like to do the backs of their projects, but I feel it's more professional when you do the back of your project. You could do it all black if you want to save your stain, but you should do something. Don't just leave it wood color like that unfinished. It looks tacky. So when you're doing projects for craft shows, for anything really, you kind of want to make sure that you at least hit the back with something so that it's not bland. So if they're looking at it from the inside out, you know, in their house, they don't just see wood grain with a bunch of stain all over it. So you can either match the fronts or just do like a flat black spray paint on the back and leave it at that. I am going to do both sides, probably. So I got t-shirts, old t-shirt that I have ripped up, 2 pieces, one for the stain, one to wipe the stain off. I got my gloves, I got my Benzomatic, and I got my stain. Now when we're going to do this, if I can turn it on, flame on. We're going to give it an even amount of burn on all the sides. Not pushing too much. Remember, you still want to see the orange. Watch your fingers. Another tip when you're burning is you might change your mind on the grain patterns. One side might have a cooler grain pattern than the other, and you might be like, you know what, I like that too. And remember, again, it's a spooky project, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't sit there and try too hard to make it something it's not. When you're done with your Benzomatic, for safety reasons, if you're not going to be using it, undo it, take the nozzle off, put it away where it's safe. Now you're probably asking, why did I only burn these two? Well, because I'm spray painting these black, so putting a burn on it isn't going to do much any good. So we're going to stain with our pumpkin orange. Shake, 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 Senora, shake your body line. Don't yell at me if I got the words wrong. Okay. I'm going to use my opener bracket that I got off of a generator because it works just as good. That's my special effects for the day. Spared no expense. Glove up, unless you want stain on your hands. You go into work or whatever other job you have, if you have one, with orange on your fingers, questions are going to be asked. Alright, so blam. Actually, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to wipe off some of the char. Just kind of give it a wipe. Get rid of some of the ash. Look at your grain patterns. I like that one better. Kind of like that better. Okay. Put my microfiber. Okay. Got my stain. Boom. Just gonna put it on nice straight lines. Remember, this is different than wood stain. This is semi-transparent paint, basically. So it's gonna color it immediately. You don't gotta let it sit on there forever. What you get is what you get. Hit the edges up. Ooh, that's gonna look sharp. And grain soaks in a lot, so you gotta kind of make sure you get it in all the nooks and crans. And it dries almost instantaneously, especially if it's hot outside. So you go and just give it a light wipe. Again, it's gonna dry almost immediately when it's hot and humid outside. And there you go. And it dries, this particular color for me dries lighter. So once this dries, it's gonna have like an awesome pumpkin-y, and then wipe it off right away. Oh my god, no. Doesn't matter. You gotta remember, it's paint. It's paint. It's not the same as your regular mahogany and stuff like that. Once it goes on there, that's pretty much what you're getting. That's why it's important that you do nice uniform strokes. Otherwise you're going to see the marks, you're going to see the lines, you're not going to be happy with your project. Nice straight lines, plenty to go around. Okay, gonna wipe it off straight. And again, wiping it off, what that does is that makes, you can always go back and touch up. What it does is it takes away any of the brush strokes you use if you're going to use a sponge or anything like that. You see any streaks, you just go in, hit it up a little bit more. Wipe it off straight, getting rid of whatever stroke lines you have so that it turns out nice and smooth. Just kind of hit these up just to get rid of the excess, and you have pumpkin orange. We're going to do the other side, and then we're going to do the black. Stay tuned. Also, I didn't wear my mask when I was staining because I'm outside, but if you have any type of breathing issues or lung issues, please wear a mask. Your lungs will thank you. So again, I'm just using gloss black, Rust-Oleum, Home Depot. Back and forth, releasing as you go. There's no science to it, it's just spray paint. Okay, now we'll let these dry for a second. Put them off to the side. And we'll be back to show you the assembly. So upon review, I realized that every fence has a top section and a bottom section that connects together. Otherwise the pickets would just kind of be floating in the air. So there's two things that we need to do to these fence pickets. One of them is make cross sections. So something that sits across the fence pickets to hold it together. The second is going to be a section on the bottom that we brad nail in to keep the fence picket on the base, because simply brad nails and glue aren't going to hold the fence upright. We'll get to that in a minute, but first let's talk about our piece that we need to go across. Now you can use whatever size you want. You can use the same wood if you want to, scraps. I'm just going to use a small piece of what is there. I don't even know what this is, I'll be honest with you, but it was in my scrap pile. It looks like it was a stake or something. It's rounded on both ends. Either way, we're going to cut off the round end, and then we're going to measure out 15 inches and cut two 15-inch pieces. And you're not going to have to worry about really sanding it because it's going to be behind the fence picket as an accent piece, just to hold the pickets aligned. So let's cut out a section here and a section here. First, let's cut off our end. Okay. Let's measure out 15 inches. Bam, bam. Square it up. Go to our scribe. Make sure it's against the fence and your hand's away from the blade. Take our piece, square it up, scribe our mark, turn it around so that the longer part is able to be held on to and not the shorter part, because you don't want your hand near that blade. Okay, now we got our two pieces. We're going to take them over to our painting booth table. Now we're going to paint these a French lilac. You can use whatever purple you want to, but I like this color for Halloween because when it dries a lot darker than what it shows you. And when you hit this lilac onto the black background, that's why I wanted to show you that I've done it before, it turns out amazing. I mean, it looks so Halloween-esque. And the beauty of it is that it's a great pastel color for Easter. So French lilac, Rust-Oleum, satin, Home Depot, or wherever else you buy it. We're gonna set our pieces up on the other side though. This is my paint side. We're gonna set them up. Doesn't have to be, we're gonna do the end here like that. We're just gonna go ahead and 2 coats. I didn't sand these because they're gonna be behind and you want them to almost look a little rustic. Look at that pop. Look at that. Look at that pop on it. Oh yeah. These are gonna be excelente. That's not Spanish, by the way. So we're just gonna turn it. I know it's still wet. Otherwise, you'd normally let it dry for about 15 minutes or so. And we're gonna hit the bottom or the top, whatever side you like. Cutting these end grains a little bit more. Remember though, it's an accent piece, so you don't have to go crazy with it. Before you yell at me for holding the paint can upside down. Don't care. Alright, so we're gonna let these dry, and then we're gonna start the assembly phase. Because there's also some extra sections, like I mentioned before, that we got to put on the bottom so that the fence doesn't fall over or off, because brad nails through the bottom and glue isn't enough to keep the fence upright. So stay tuned. So I ended up cutting a 2" by 2.5" piece of the same wood for our back, leaving the bottom unpainted because we're going to be putting glue on that, and it'll hit better if it's unpainted. So 2.5" 2.5" by 2" 2 pieces that are going to connect to our pickets so that they'll stay in one spot and won't fall off. They're drying. The purple is drying. We're almost done. Then the assembly part. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing assembly soon. These are what we're going to need. Our pieces are all dry now. So we're going to need a square to make sure our fences are up, straight up and down. A tape measure for the spacing. Brad nailer. It's not hooked up yet, but 1.25" brad nails and 1" brad nails, both sizes. A Titebond 3. Now, they might put it outside, whoever buys it, or you. So I always use Titebond 3. It's safe and Rust-Oleum clear. Now you could also use spirurethane, or as I like to call it, spirethane. If you're going to put it outside, it's a better UV protectant. It's a better water protectant than the Rust-Oleum clear. It doesn't need as many coats either. However, the clear dries a lot quicker, but you risk it being weathered. So, as you can tell, I got all my pieces. I got my fence pieces out. And what you have to do is decide what combo you want to do with your fence. Do you want to do, I'm going to do orange, black, black, orange. You could do orange, black, orange. You could do, black, orange, orange, black. You could do, whatever combo you want to do or you like, you can do, I got the base, which turned out great on our 1x8. Turns out it was a 1x8, and we needed to make the base a little bit bigger, so I had to cut another piece. It wasn't as wide as I wanted it to be, so you probably want to cut it to 20 inches. This is 20 inches by 7.5. So the other one was just too narrow, so I had to cut it, recut it, and re-spray paint it. But as you could tell, this is a better length. So 20 inches long for the base. Now, 20 inches long for the base. That's the only thing that changed. And we got our stoppers that'll go here, that'll keep our fence, and we'll brad nail them from the front to the back. That'll keep our base on, or our pickets on our base. And then we got our purple lilac, which look at how awesome that turned out. I told you once it dries darker, and it's very Halloween. because it's such a pastel-y color, the lilac, it goes great with orange, black, blue. I mean, you could put it wherever. So I'm going to align these. You could do straight. I'm going to do an angle because we're doing a spooky fence, right? So I'm going to do one that way, one that way. And, all right, so now that you know what you need, use a piece of plywood if you're going to use a folding table, just because they're never level. You know, they're you know. So you want to try to be as level as possible. And you can use level, again, that's why I got this, the square. I can hold it here and make sure my fence pickets are exactly vertical so they're not leaning. But it's, again, it's a Halloween project, so don't try to perfect Halloween projects. Sometimes the off is good. If you take a lot of Tim Burton stuff, you would stare at it and be like, it's not right. And that's what makes it great, especially for Halloween. So, all right, let's get to the assembly. First, assemble these pieces after you know our combo. If you want the black on the outside, you assemble them there. You could do 4 of these too if you want. The stapler, you know, again, it's 2 by 2.5. I just cut them, and I'm going to put them here, making sure they're flush with the bottom of the board. Let's move our base out of the way for a second. Making sure they are straight, which they are. Get some air going. Now, this particular piece, you can go on an angle, but I'm going to go from front into the back. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of Tite Bond. Not too much. But again, doesn't matter, no one's going to see it. Get a paper towel. Paper towels are always good to have in your shop. Some kind of shop rag, anything really. So align your piece. Kind of push down on it. Wipe off the excess. Okay. Turn her over. And when you're doing this part, again, you want to make sure that it's flush with your wood. And watch your fingers. You don't want it to go through your fingers, so don't just put your finger right in the way. Also, watch the length. These are 2.5 inches long, so I know that my 1 1/4 inch brad nails aren't going to go through to tip my finger. So I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. Perfect. Perfect. One for good luck. So now, and if it comes up through here, you can either cut it off with wire cutters. You can pull the piece off if you want to. So now I got my pieces are set. There we go. So that piece is now set. So now we're going to go back, grab our base. Let's move our brad nail. Okay, so this is where the tape measure comes in. And this is where we're going to be assembling these pieces. It helps when you have it like this. Since you already have these adhered, we're going to take our tape measure and measure how far you want it. I'm going to do about 1 inch. Or what you could do is just use these. So you could set how far you want your inch away from the end here. And you just put this right in the middle. hold this piece down, push, and then pull it out. Scoot it over. Hold this piece down, scoot it over, push it down. Scoot your other fence piece in, scoot it down. Pull this piece out, repeat. Hold this piece down, put your piece in, hold it down, put it against the flush. And then what you could do, if you don't like it, if there's, oh, it's a little bit wider over here, just slide it over. You know, just kind of, and then you want to push forward on it, making sure it's straight. Use the bottom of the board. Okay. And then hold down these two with your finger. Oops, moves a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to do an angle on these. I'm going to do this way. So I'm going to go from there to there and from there to there. And we're going to, this is where we're going to change from 1.25 inches to 1-inch brad nails, so you don't go all the way through. All right, so I'm going to make sure I got enough hose. Try and keep them straight. Push down in the middle. Okay, voila, straight, right on our base. I painted mine on both sides. It looks nicer at a craft show, and if you're at home, it looks like maybe they want to turn it around, or if they're looking at it from the back, it's not an eyesore if it's just, you know, if it just looks like wood. If it just looks like wood, it's going to be an eyesore. So now we want to brad nail these pieces after we figure out where we want it through the board. Then we're going to go back to our 1.25 inch brad nails. So you're kind of bouncing back and forth because you want it to, you know, you can hold it to the end, but you want to make sure that it goes in, but it doesn't go all the way through, and it has enough to hold it on there. If I think 1.25 inches is great. 2 inches is too much. Oop. And if you look, it's square. And we're going to put some glue. So once you figure out where you want it, again, you could have it in the middle. You can have it at the end so that you can put some stuff in the front here, some decorations. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to not put it in the middle, but I'm gonna put it a little offset in the back. So I'm gonna put it probably about 1.25 inches to the back. 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. Make sure my end is 3/4. Okay. And you kind of take a look at the back of it, make sure it's, you know, where you want it. And just put some glue on these pieces. Not a lot, you don't need a lot. Okay. Now we're going to hit these pieces up. Now also, remember the pieces you're going to use in the back, make sure that push on them. Make sure they're not cracked in any way, because the brad nails, if you do this, it's just gonna crack the board in half. And we're looking good. Now you could go in this way, just for security purposes. Just be very careful you don't come through the board, because it's attached now. And so I'm going to switch back to my 1-inch ones, just holding it this way and lining it up. I don't care if they come out the back, as long as they don't come out the front. Okay. All right, we're done. What? We finished. This is our final product. This is what it could look like. Now, all I did with this is I went to the dollar store, grabbed a, the spider or the bat. You can buy these little things in packages. Hobby Lobby sells them. You can go to a Michael's, any type of crafting store. And I don't have a stencil maker, or a CNC machine, so I just I bought these. They were on a thing, like a little fence post picket at the dollar store, and I just tore them off, and I glue gunned everything. So I used a hot glue gun to put all this stuff on. You could probably use CA glue if you want to, if you don't have that. And I mean, you could put lights on it. You could put, the sky's the limit. You could put real little baby pumpkins in there. You could put a little lantern in the front here if you want to. But, the final product turned out great. I'm going to throw a couple of coats of clear on it and be done with it. And again, this is what you could have at the end of it, or how you choose to decorate it. So I appreciate you sticking around for the build. Hopefully you liked it. I have a lot more Halloween projects coming up that nobody's building. I've watched a million YouTube videos, and I guarantee you haven't seen these type of builds before. That's what makes me not so ordinary. I like to go outside the box. Either way, our next project is going to be that wooden wreath. So stay tuned. It's going to be out soon. And hopefully you guys can make some money on these at craft shows. I sell them for $35 to $40, depending on the area or location. They sell all day long. Last year I sold 42 of these. That's a lot. At $35 each, 42 of them. So, and that's throughout the whole crafting season, starting in August through November. So almost up to December, because I changed them from Halloween to Thanksgiving. And again, you could do the same thing with that too. Instead of putting the spooky things on there, you can just put Thanksgiving things, some leaves, stay with the pumpkin theme. And decorate. The sky's the limit, again. So enjoy. Hopefully you guys can make some money off the project. Stick around. We got a lot more coming your way. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Not So Ordinary Woodworks. So come on back for another spooky